So you want to know about Mass Effect 2? Well, since we don't really have as much budget as we did for the intro, I'm going to be recording this on a vertical cam. And this is the little intro screen for the video. Don't you like it? Senor Libros Gaming. I actually created this channel when I was 16. And now I'm making a little bit of a comeback, so that's interesting. Oh, but first, before I can get into the Mass Effect review, I have to give a little backstory. So, this is a little drawing of me and my friend Bobby. Now, when I was a kid, early 2000s, let's go back to early 2000s, me and Bob were out and we're playing soccer. Okay, we're on the same soccer team. That's where me and Bobby met. And, I thought to myself, maybe me and Bob should go back to my place and watch the first Spider-Man, the Sam Raimi Spider-Man. That's very important for us to remember. So I said, Bob, you want to come over and watch Spider-Man? He said, yeah. So then after soccer practice, me, Bob, and my mom, we got in the van and we're like, we're going to go see Spider-Man. And I'm thinking to myself, I'm like, you know what I could go for? A bowl of cheese curls. Now, a lot of people had Zoo Pals, but I had this basketball-looking bowl full of cheese curls, and I loved it. It was the pinnacle of happiness for me as a kid. So I'm sitting there thinking, I'm gonna watch this great movie with cheese curls, and as I'm watching this movie, I'm just sitting there thinking, oh my gosh, like they did it. This is the best. And as vindicated by Dashboard Confessional rings on the TV, the credits are going down. I look over to Bobby and I say, this is the single greatest movie that I've ever seen, and no sequel can live up to it. And as I reach for the cheese curls, Bobby just looks me dead in the eyes and says, "You're wrong." And I say, "What do you mean I'm wrong?" And he says, "There's one thing that the sequel is better than the original." And as he's sitting there with his little mustache and his little beard that he has at age 6 because this story is completely made up, I'm completely flabbergasted. And I say, what is this? What is this thing that you're speaking about? And he says, the game trilogy Mass Effect. And I think, wow, maybe I should do a review of that game. And that is what you're about to watch. So, pass Landon, can I take it away? Okay. Looks like we're going to jump right in. So essentially, the first thing I want to talk about is the story. Now, when we look at the story of Mass Effect 2, it's kind of picking up right where Mass Effect 1 left off with the story about Commander Shepard, the Alliance, and the Reapers. Now, Commander Shepard is taken over by this Reaper ship, and he seems to have been killed. But then after that, he gets picked up by Cerberus, this splinter human kind of organization that advocates more for human rights than just for galactic rights. And this whole story about the tension between Shepard, the Alliance, and this pro-human, anti-alien kind of thing going up against the Collectors, who are this other alien race that is trying to help out the Reapers to destroy the world and destroy all organic life in the world. Right off the bat, I think one of the best things about this story is that there's actually less main story in this and more supportive story in this. If you just play every main mission in Mass Effect 2, you kind of miss the point of it, because what you're doing is you're assembling this crew. And you're assembling this crew for one purpose, one mission. You're going to go through this mass relay to this galaxy that no one's ever gone before. So you need to get a crew, and not only that, you need to get a crew that you trust. And for you to get these crew members to trust you, they each have their own missions. Now, these missions are actually really, really good. It gives you a little bit more of an attachment to these characters that you didn't feel in Mass Effect 2. Like, for instance, Mass Effect 1 had a character named Garrus. A lot of people liked him. I didn't really know why people liked him. In Mass Effect 2, I kind of figured out why. Because Garrus is awesome. When I played his side mission, he was like this vigilante kind of guy. After he retired from being a cop, he became like this vigilante sniper. He used his powers and his training that he had as a cop to go out and take care of business. Now, a lot of them were hits. A lot of these side missions were hits. Like I just said, Garrus was a great one. Jax was a great one. But then there were like some like misfires. My favorite was Garrus's, but my least favorite was probably Legion's, because he's a character that shows up at the very, very end of the main story. You're almost ready to go on this suicide mission to do something that no one else have done before, and you kind of feel like you have to take a sidestep off to deal with this new guy. But besides that, the story is actually really, really excellent. There's not really much to talk about. I might do a tier list later of this. Probably won't. If I see people on this that say they want a tier list of all of these side missions where I kind of go in depth and talk about it, I'd love to do that, because honestly, I miss Mass Effect. Loved playing the second one. Can't wait to play the third one and review that one. But then the next thing, and one of the things that a lot of people look forward to in Mass Effect games, is the romantic aspect of it. Now, something that's really attractive about the Mass Effect series in general is that your choices from previous games like Mass Effect 1 carry over to Mass Effect 2. Something that's odd about Mass Effect 2 is the fact that your romance from Mass Effect 1 doesn't really carry over no matter what you did. If you chose to romance Ashley, you kind of get pushed off to the side. Same thing with Kaidan. If you also chose to romance Liara, they kind of acknowledge it, and they actually release DLC later called the Shadow Broker DLC, where you get to expand on that relationship. But in the base game, which is what I played, you actually don't really get to continue on with that relationship. You get to have it. They acknowledge that it existed. I've heard things and rumblings that in Mass Effect 3, you actually do get to continue with your Mass Effect 1 relationship or 2. Essentially, you don't get to have that continuation from Mass Effect 1, which is kind of an interesting call. It actually makes you go in depth and think about these new characters that they're throwing at you instead of latching onto your old crew. So it makes you pick between people like Jack and Miranda, because Jack is very, very different than Miranda. Jack is a renegade, Miranda is an officer for Cerberus. You know, one is very prim and proper, one is very much your pop punk kind of vibes. And then when you pick one over the other, it actually affects their loyalty to you in the suicide mission later. These things play into how effective they'll be as crew members with you. I thought that was excellent, because obviously if I romance one chick and then I cheat on her, in real life, this one's going to have a harder time trusting me in any situation. Same thing goes inside of this video game. I think that that's excellent. Overall, I ended up not picking Jack or Miranda. I ended up picking Tali. And I feel like that's great. I feel like going with Tali in this, she was the only character in the game that actually cared for Shepard outside of his usefulness to either Cerberus or personal motives or the Alliance or anything. So personally, I'm Tali all the way. Next thing we're going to talk about, and it's something that is a massive improvement. Get it? Mass Effect? No. Okay. It's a massive improvement, and that's the gameplay. Now, I don't really want to go too in depth about gameplay. I feel like I gave Mass Effect 1 a bad review on the gameplay side of things, because I didn't fully understand A, how that game was supposed to work, B, when that game came out, so I was expecting far too much from it, and C, I didn't understand things going into it that I should have understood, like the Mako. I hated the Infiltrator class when I first talked about it in Mass Effect 1. Mass Effect 2 completely changed it up. It made you feel like you could go in, it was essentially a sniper class, but with a little bit of bionics mixed in. It's kind of like when you do D&D, you don't want to go full caster, but you don't want to go full fighter, right? It's a mix between doing a little bit of healing, doing a little bit of war magic, and then also being able to use your weapons. So I thought Infiltrator was a great choice for Mass Effect 2. I feel like mining for ore and upgrades instead of using the Mako was great. I think the fact that they had no Mako was great. I felt like the cover system in this was so much better. The shooting was just so much clearer. There was no Mako. There was better control of squad mates. Like, you could send a squad mate over here and do other stuff. You could get like better weapons, and you had weapon ammo instead of it just overheating. Like in Mass Effect 1, if you were to shoot a gun, it would overheat. Instead of you having like ammo, you had unlimited ammo, but it would overheat. That got kind of irritating. But then there's no Mako. There was also no Mako. And yeah, I really don't like the Mako in Mass Effect 1. And they don't have it here. Oh, yeah, and they have autosaves in this game too. Something that I complained about for the first one that I didn't realize was not something that games had. So, yeah. Also, they didn't have the Mako in the game. Another, and probably the final thing that I'm going to be talking about in this review, is the idea of choice. Now, Mass Effect is built on this name, Mass Effect, because your choices are supposed to have a mass effect over everything that you do across the series. Not just one game, not Mass Effect 1, 2, or 3, all of them together. And the reason why we play this game is that Mass Effect has one choice that you can make that just absolutely defines everything. And it's this choice of whether you want to go Renegade or Paragon, whether you want to be a good guy or a bad guy. In Mass Effect 1, it was purely dialogue choices, like, I'm going to be mean to this guy, I'm going to be harder on this guy, or I'm going to have more compassion for this guy. In Mass Effect 2, they had these instances where you could physically do things. You could press the right trigger or the left trigger if you wanted to do something nice or do something mean. So you could actually like kill people if you wanted to be mean, or you could like donate money to a homeless guy if you wanted to be nice. These are some of the options that you had on here, and it really could put you in a bad situation if you don't pick one or the other. There are consequences to either one. If I decided to kill this guy earlier, I could be rewarded for doing that by not having to fight him in a later thing. But if I paid off a guy earlier, I could have also benefited from the information that he could give me, or he could give me a cool gun, he could give me a lead on something that I'm tracking down, or it could be the opposite way. If you go Renegade and you go hard on somebody, he could rat you out to the police, he could rat you out to Cerberus or the Alliance, or any of these kind of people. Same thing with Paragon. You could be nice and then essentially get taken advantage of. Essentially, whatever way you want to play this, there is no inherent advantage of playing it Renegade or Paragon. It's really up to you what you want to decide in any given moment. And that's why I like this game, because I feel like it doesn't force you to be binary, right? You don't have to either be pure Renegade, pure jerk, or pure Paragon, pure nice boy. You can be a little harder with some people, and you can be a little nicer with other people. So we talked about story, we talked about romances, we talked about gameplay, we talked about the Mako, and we talked about choice. So overall, Mass Effect 2 showed me how jaded and bad and unrealistic of expectations I had for this kind of game beforehand with Mass Effect 1. Mass Effect 2, the game, is absolutely great. It had great story, it had great side missions for these characters. The characters had depth. I actually felt really bad when I played the side missions, and then I played the main mission, I played the suicide mission, and some of my characters actually had to die because of the choices that I made previously. You could have gotten out of it for free with all of your people, but I didn't make a lot of great decisions, and I lost a few of my crew members along the way. But that's what makes it rewarding. The romances, while not carrying over from Mass Effect 1, were still pretty good. Had a lot of heart to it, made me feel a little something inside here. The choices, absolutely great. Felt like it wasn't binary, felt like I could choose whatever I wanted to do, felt like my choices had actual weight when it came down to the end game. The mechanics, they're just absolutely great cover system. The Infiltrator class got updated and it was great. And to top all of it off, there's no Mako. So, if I had to describe Mass Effect 2 in one sentence, it's everything that I wanted Mass Effect 1 to be, and it lived up to all the expectations I had for the series in general. I know that's a compound sentence, but that's exactly the way that I feel about this game. And that's why Mass Effect 2 will get Landon's first 10 out of 10 review. This game is a 10 out of 10 masterpiece. I couldn't have done it better. I couldn't have done Mass Effect 1 better than they did Mass Effect 1. I can't do pretty much anything better than these guys. But, I mean, this is truly something that could not be replicated. It's a very good example of how to make a game. That has been my review for Mass Effect 2. Not sure about what other projects I have going on. I'm playing through the Crash Bandicoot series. I'm playing through Red Dead Redemption. Maybe you'll see a review on those kind of things. Maybe not. I like to review older kind of video games for you guys to see, hey, is this really worth going back and watching? Maybe I should call it like nostalgia reviews or something like that. There we go. That's the name of this series. We're going to call this series Nostalgia Reviews, and it's going to be Mass Effect 1, Mass Effect 2. I know for certain, right? There will be a review of Mass Effect 3, and it's not going to come out 6 years later. I think. All right. I'll see you guys later. Thank you for subscribing if you did. Thank you for liking if you did. Thank you for commenting if you did. And even if you didn't, my name's Landon. You've been wasting a lot of your time. Go outside, go read your Bible, keep God number one in your life, and I'll see you guys later.